I'm Dennis Meadows. I was for many years a professor in different universities in the United States. I was born in 1942, about here. 96% of all the oil which has ever been used in human history was used since I was born. So global oil use, and now we are here. Global oil use has been something like this. And this is going to come down in some way. We don't know. Something. Recently, a German think tank expected that by 2030, so about here, oil will be half of current levels. So something like this. Global oil production will be, per year, will be half of current levels. How can societies expect this, and it's going to get this? And what policies do we have to take in order to do this in a way which is peaceful and equitable and so forth? It's possible if we prepare, but if we deny the problem, then we never will manage. If you're a parent and you have a child, then you will be very enthusiastic that for the first 18, maybe 20 years, the child becomes bigger, actually grows physically. It even is a source of pride and happiness to you if you see that your child is growing very fast. But after about 18 or 20 years, then you don't want your child to grow anymore. You want your child to develop, to become wiser, to learn foreign languages, to learn how to have important love relationships, to be a good parent, so forth. After 18 or 20 years, if your child continued to grow, becoming 2 meters, 3 meters, 4 meters, you would be very embarrassed, and actually you would be very worried about it, and people would be quite amazed, and even they would laugh. Unfortunately, in the economy, we haven't made this distinction. There was a time in the rich Western countries where it was very useful to have physical expansion, increasing capital, increasing energy use, increasing consumption of materials, more and more buildings, and so forth. But we are far past that time now, and we need to have a system which encourages development without physical growth. Unfortunately, we got into the habit of doing things to cause physical growth, and we keep trying to continue those habits. We need to know how to convert the policies and the institutions which gave us physical expansion over into policies and institutions that give us development, culture, understanding, health, education, friendship, love, the peace, the things which are really important to society. Today, there is a lot of worry and concern. You see it in the papers, you see it in the speeches of politicians, about climate change, about environmental damage, about falling water tables, about foods and oil scarcity, and so forth. These are really not problems. They're symptoms. It's like your friend has cancer and therefore has also a headache. The headache is a symptom. It's not in itself the problem. You can take care of the headache. You can give painkillers or something. But if the headache goes away, you don't imagine that the problem is solved. And climate change, energy scarcity, these things are symptoms. Maybe we could solve them. Maybe we won't. But even if we do, it doesn't eliminate the problem. The problem is physical growth, continued population expansion, continued increase in material standard of living in a world which has finite limits. Technically speaking, collapse, in English, is a process where things go down out of control. So if, for example, a building collapses, it falls down not under the control of anybody. Societal collapse is for the key indicators of our society: material standard of living, peace, trust in the government, and other things, to fall without control. The situation is, for us, is kind of like living in a city which has earthquakes, let's say Tokyo or San Francisco. I can tell my friend in San Francisco that with 100% probability, there's going to be another really big earthquake in San Francisco. Absolutely, no uncertainty about it. But when? That's the question. And how big? These are important questions. We don't have any scientific way of understanding. Could be tomorrow, could be 30 years from now. Same thing with collapse. I know that the current growth in population and material use absolutely cannot continue. 100% probability it's going to stop. When? How? How seriously? We have no scientific way to make predictions. The longer we wait to do social measures, like birth control or voluntary simplicity, the more likely it will be physical measures which cause this decline. If you ask me as a person to make my guess, I would say that food will be an important factor because it reflects many of the other issues. Definitely the climate is changing now, that's for sure. It's changing very quickly. Climate change will reduce the possibility for food production in many areas. That will cause problems. Probably global oil production has already reached its maximum, I think in 2006, but for sure in this period. When energy becomes more and more expensive, many of the so-called modern farming technologies will become impossible. That will reduce food production. For example, without cheap diesel fuel, you can't pump up water for irrigation. If you have to quit irrigating land and start using so-called dry land agricultural techniques, productivity goes down, less food. So I think food production will be an important factor, but it wouldn't be accurate to say that it's the problem or even the only problem.